Greetings, loyal subjects. Today we're going to talk about the English heritage site Boscobel House, which is in Shropshire. John Gifford built it in the 17th century, sometime before 1624. Now, he meant for it to be a hunting lodge. It was in the middle of dense woodland, and it was considered a great place for people to hide. Now, Gifford and his family were Catholics. And they were Catholics in a time of great persecution. Now, they intended to keep on practicing their faith, and so Mr. Gifford decided, rather wisely perhaps, to include a couple of priest holes in his design. The house was later to become very famous as one of the numerous places that Charles II hid in for a while after his defeat from the Battle of Worcester, and particularly because of the thing that was about 100 yards away from the house itself, the Royal Oak. And that is the first of our unmissable things, the Royal Oak. After his defeat at the Battle of Worcester, Charles II fled with just a handful of loyal men. He ended up at White Lady's Priory, half a mile away from Boscobel House. However, it was deemed unsafe, and so Charles was taken from there into the woodland, and there he hid in a tree. In the words of Charles himself, "We got up into a great oak that had been lopped some 3 or 4 years before, and being grown out again very bushy and thick, could not be seen through. And there we stayed all the day." So for 14 hours, Charles II hid in the oak. It was a rainy day, which probably aided Charles, and it meant that the parliamentarian forces that were searching for him probably didn't look too hard in the woodland. Today, you can see the Royal Oak, or at least sort of. Unfortunately, after the restoration of the monarchy, souvenir hunters descended on Boscobel, and in particular, they headed for the Royal Oak. And what they did is they removed boughs and branches and basically destroyed the tree. The owners of the property at that time, the Fitzherberts, made some attempts to save it by building a great big brick wall around it, but it was no good. What they did do, however, was they planted an acorn from the Royal Oak. And that is the tree that we see there today. It is called the son of the Royal Oak. Unfortunately, that son of the Royal Oak has also become damaged over time. Storms, lightning strikes, etc. So on the 300th anniversary of Charles II's stay at Boscobel, the current king, Charles III, who was at that point Prince of Wales, of course, came along and he planted an acorn from the son of the Royal Oak right next to it. And you can see that sapling today. That will ultimately become the replacement to the son of the Royal Oak. And the Royal Oak, of course, is famous throughout the country as a pub name. It is the third most popular pub name in England, and it all comes from this tree that you can go and see. The second of our unmissable sites at Boscobel House is the attic priest hole. Now, you climb up there via the original 17th century stairs that Charles II would himself have gone up. And there at the very top of the stairs is a priest hole. Now, if you've got to think about it, Charles II was 6'2". It would have been pretty uncomfortable for him to stay the night there, which is what he did, because he needed to ensure that he was going to be safe. Now, Boscobel call their priest holes secret places, and there are 2 on the site. The third thing not to miss is the parlour. This remains largely unchanged since the 17th century. And it was this room that the king was first brought into after staying in the Royal Oak. Remember, he was soaking wet. He was fed. And then what he did is he went and sat in front of the fire and dried out his shoes and socks, literally in front of the fireplace. Now, the actual fireplace has been replaced to a later Victorian one, but on this Victorian one you can see graphical descriptions of Charles's escape and his stay in the Royal Oak. The fourth thing not to miss is the squire's bedroom, effectively the master bedroom of the house. Again, it remains largely unchanged, apart from the fact it has been split up into 2 different rooms. It is off the squire's bedroom in what is effectively a 17th century ensuite, if you were. It would have probably held a closed stool. But underneath there in the floor is the second secret place, the second priest hole. Now this, as well as a place for a priest to hide, also had a set of stairs that ran down the length of the chimney and out through a small door into the garden, in case somebody needed to escape. The fifth thing that you mustn't miss is the gardens outside, and in particular the arbour on the mound that you see. Now the arbour is a modern day replica, but there was also an arbour there back in the time of Charles's visit. Call it a visit. I'm not sure if visit is the right word, really. The man's trying to escape from the parliamentarian forces who are sure to execute him if they find him. But anyway, we've called it a visit up to now, and we will continue to do so. After he spent the night in the priest hole, he needed some air. What he did is he went out into the gardens, into the arbour, and he read in that arbour for a couple of hours. And he described it as a most peaceful and restful place. So is it worth visiting Boscobel House? Absolutely, of course it is. One of the most iconic stories in English history was played out here with the famous Royal Oak. What I would do if you were going to visit, I would pair it up with a visit down the road to the White Lady's Priory. It is literally half a mile down the road. It's free entry as well at the Priory. There is a cost to get into Boscobel House. You can either walk down or you can drive down, and there's a small lay-by in the road. It could get really busy, so I would be careful with your chariots going down there. Probably walking if it's a nice day. There's a decent set of ruins down there at the Priory, worth having a look at. I would also then probably pair it up with a visit to Molesley Old Hall, which is about 6 miles away. That is the next location on Charles II's escape. And again, they've got priest holes and all sorts there. That side isn't managed by the National Trust, though. So if you wanted free entry into everything, you're going to need an English Heritage membership and a National Trust membership. Definitely worth visiting both of those sites, though.